You are watching Bengals Breakdown, and I am your host, Stone Shields. Coming up on today's show, we got some news here on a Tuesday morning. The Bengals and Gino Stone are reworking his contract, and we saw this a couple of weeks ago with Zach Moss as well. Kind of out of character for Cincinnati to be doing this, but as we'll get into on today's show, I do think this is a very good thing. But we're going to be diving into Stone's new contract with the Cincinnati Bengals and what this could mean for the team going forward and whether or not a potential move comes out of this rework deal for Gino Stone. But before we get into that, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV. We are rapidly approaching 19,000 subscribers here on the channel. As you can see, less than 300 subs to go. We will be here throughout the entirety of the offseason. Plenty of stuff to talk about. Obviously, OTAs and minicamp, mandatory minicamp. Things of that nature are right around the corner. You don't want to miss any of our Cincinnati Bengals coverage here at the channel. Help us out. Hit that sub button for me right now. Let's kind of dive into this quote here from Jason Fitzgerald, who broke this news earlier this morning for Over the Cap, and this is what Fitzgerald wrote. He said, the Bengals and safety Gino Stone have agreed on a contract modification that should guarantee Stone's position with the Bengals this year, per a source with knowledge of the contract. Stone, who was scheduled to earn just over $6.4 million this year, agreed to a one-year $4.9 million contract, a reduction in salary of just over $1.5 million. The Bengals guaranteed $1.5 million on the new contracts, which, given the Bengals' history, is a virtual guarantee on his entire year's salary. Stone had signed with the Bengals as a free agent in 2024 on a two-year $14 million contract. Stone started 17 games for the team last year and had 4 interceptions, but there was some chatter that the Bengals could move on due to overall inconsistent play, changes in the defense, and salary concerns. The new deal ends any of that speculation for the future. Stone will be a free agent in 2026. So the Bengals are going to have an extra about just over $1.5 million in salary cap space. And that's interesting because we could see another move be made by this Cincinnati Bengals football team. Gino Stone's going to make the team now, right? You know, I've came on this channel before and said, you know what, I think it might be in the best interest of the Cincinnati Bengals to move on from Gino Stone. But after this reworked contract, basically all his money is guaranteed. He's going to have a roster spot for this team in 2025. And as I mentioned, another move could be coming. What that move is, I'm not entirely sure, but it kind of felt like Cincinnati was just running it back with that safety spot, that entire safety room that they had last year. And now all of a sudden it's like, all right, there is a couple of, extra dollars that could go around. Is it going to necessarily move the needle? I'm not sure, but there are some available free agent safeties, which we'll touch on once again on today's show as well. And there's also some people out there that say, you know what, could this, open up the idea of a Trey Hendrickson extension? And I'm not quite sure that this money that they are saving, again, just over $1.5 million against the salary cap, will be enough for a Trey Hendrickson extension, but we'll see. That certainly could be in play as well. Pin comment time here on today's show. What is your one-word reaction to Gino Stone's new contract? Give me a one-word response in the comments of today's show. And if that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. You can ignore it, take advantage of it. Get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. Look, I think overall this is a good sign for the Cincinnati Bengals, right? We're seeing them do some things that are out of character, some things that winning organizations do. Paying their star players. We saw it this offseason with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You can check that right off the box, right? And now you're seeing them rework some contracts, something historically this organization has not done. Saw it a couple weeks ago with Zach Moss, seeing it now with Gino Stone. Let's be very clear here. Gino Stone didn't live up to his contract, right? That $2 million or that two-year $14 million deal that we were just discussing. He didn't play like that kind of safety last year in 2024 with Cincinnati. Certainly took a significant step back from what he was doing in 2023 with the Baltimore Ravens. There were some coverage issues undoubtedly with Gino Stone, being in the wrong place at the wrong time there as well a little bit, and also some mental lapses for Gino Stone. There was a lack of speed that I think we saw as well. Obviously, as a safety, your job is to be that last line of defense, and it felt like there were several times this past season where somebody on the opposing team was able to get over the top of the Cincinnati Bengals defense, and ultimately that responsibility rests with the safety. So obviously, this is what the room looks like right now. I think there is, a chance now that they could add another body to this room, obviously a veteran type. With this restructured contract of Gino Stone, saving them, once again, a little bit over $1.5 million against the cap. But I do want to point out this tweet here from Paul Dehner Jr. I think he makes a great point, right? Paul, obviously, in this tweet, letting everybody know about the pay cut that Gino Stone is taking. But then at the end of this, he goes, I'd really like to know what saving $1.58 million will provide versus embarrassing the starting safety you're depending upon with no alternative. That's a great point here from Paul Dehner Jr. Now, if Cincinnati's able to use that cash to go out and sign, a Justin Simmons or somebody else, a Jordan Whitehead, somebody we'll talk about here on today's show, okay. If they're able to, spearhead a Trey Hendrickson extension with this cash, again, seems unlikely. It's only $1.58 million against the cap, okay. But is this really going to move the needle for you as an organization? If there isn't an ensuing move, it is kind of just a head scratcher because you're basically letting him know that, hey, you didn't live up to your contract, but you're relying on him to, play better this year in 2025. So I did think that was a great point from Paul Dehner Jr. We're all just going to have to wait and see if Cincinnati opts to make a move with this money that they are saving. Continue with our show here in a moment, but first, do want to give a shout out to our friends over at Fanatics. Let you guys know that Bengals draft hats are still out and they are still available, despite the fact, obviously, the draft is in the rearview mirror here at this point. They got some really cool ones up for 2025. Really think this is one of their best years as far as draft hats go for Fanatics. That's chatsports.com/Bengals draft hats, and we'll put that link in the comment section and description of today's show. All right, going to touch on just 4 brief safety free agent targets for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, if you want a full video, we actually made this video a couple of days ago, went out over the weekend. That is available on the channel, so make sure you check that out. A full breakdown of, in my opinion, the best possible free agent safeties that are still on the open market. But obviously, Justin Simmons is the first name that pops to mind. He's kind of clear-cut the best safety still available. There was at one point when he was playing for the Denver Broncos where he was the best safety, in my opinion, in the National Football League. Obviously, he's getting up there in age. He's not quite the same player he once was, but I do still think he has some juice, and I think he could instantly make this Bengals defense better if he was a part of it. Is he going to want to come in and be a backup? Probably not. Would he be able to, vault Gino Stone for that starting spot? I don't know. But Justin Simmons certainly the top name to monitor, in my opinion. Julian Blackmon, next up here on this list, another guy that we've talked about in the past, was drafted by the Indianapolis Colts in 2020, but had that rotator cuff issue last season. Apparently suffered it in week 1 and then was able to play out throughout the entirety of the season with that injury. So there's some shoulder concerns, injury concerns there with Blackmon. And remember, if they're still available here as we sit on May 6th, that means there's red flags that come with a lot of these players, right? Obviously, all the great players that, have limited red flags are all gone at this point. So you kind of can't be too picky necessarily with this selection. Next up, Jordan Whitehead, also on this list. Most recently, spent a year in Tampa, spent several quality years in Tampa early in his career. Won a Super Bowl there with Tom Brady. He also has an injury concern. Got in a car wreck. Was put on that non-football injury list, so there's some questions there with his health going forward. I do believe it was a pretty serious neck injury for Jordan Whitehead, but a potential option for Cincinnati. And last up, I'm throwing Jordan Poyer on this list. He's getting up there in age. I believe he's 34, 35 years old. Had an incredible run with the Buffalo Bills. Last season played with Miami. Was able to get through the entirety of the season, but he did kind of fall off quite a bit, right? Wasn't nearly the player he once was in Buffalo. If he's willing to come in and be a backup, I think he could be a good option for Cincinnati because people rave about the leadership and the character of Jordan Poyer. Obviously, at this stage in his career, he's trying to win football games and win a championship, and in my opinion, there's not better places to do it than here in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, so that's another name to monitor for the Cincinnati Bengals. Let me know in the comments of today's show, do you want to sign another safety, or you just want to run it with the room that is currently in place? Let me know. Type Y for yes or N for no. Before we get out of here on today's show, do want to bring up these comments by Bengals linebacker Logan Wilson. He kind of had an open media session the other day. Jay Morrison really broke it down, a great piece for Bengals on SI. And he kind of blasted off on Lou Anarumo and the Bengals defense in previous years. Let's get into what exactly Wilson had to say. He said, less thinking, just reacting, doing what you've been doing your whole life. Sometimes at this level, you can make things more complex than they need to be. Sometimes you just have to understand that the guys on the other side of the ball get paid to do what they do too. And sometimes they're going to get us in certain ways and not always try to be in the perfect call. It's just understanding the weaknesses if you're in a certain call and how they can challenge you in that certain call. That's what allows you to play more free. And I do want to be very clear, these are pretty powerful statements by Logan Wilson. I do appreciate the honesty from Wilson, but he kind of went after, he didn't obviously go after Anarumo specifically, but kind of went after his defense. And obviously the Bengals simplified their defense down the stretch last year. But now Wilson didn't play those final 6 games, so he wasn't sitting in on those meetings like all the other players. He was doing a lot of rehab, but that kind of was the word around the street was that, hey, Cincinnati, obviously nothing was working defensively. They really kind of simplified, I don't want to say dumbed down, but just really simplified their defense, and they started playing really good football that final last stretch. Now, you weren't playing good offenses either, so you kind of have to weigh that and take that into account, but I do think that was very noteworthy that they started playing that way at the end of the year, and that kind of ties into Al Golden's style, right? His style is very cut and dry, as Wilson pointed out in some of these quotes that you can check out over there on Bengals SI. Again, Jay Morrison did a great job of breaking them down, but Al Golden's style is very much black and white. And I think really when you have a young defense, that could be really beneficial for you, right? Because as we've talked about here on this show, this Bengals defense, all the money's going to be on the offensive side of the ball, and the defense is always going to be young. You're going to have to draft and develop well. Having those complex schemes matched up with a super youthful defense probably doesn't make too much sense. You want to make it as simple as possible. Let the athletes go out there, read and react, and kind of go from there. It seems like Logan Wilson is really, really excited that the defense is kind of going in that direction for 2025 and beyond. But I did think it was pretty noteworthy that he went out there and basically said, yeah, Lou Anarumo, that defense, we had success in the past, but it was ultimately too complex for what we had going out there from a personnel perspective. Thought that was very noteworthy, and we're going to see a totally different scheme here from Al Golden in 2025. Make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter if you haven't done so already. I would greatly appreciate it. Working our way up to 600 followers here on my Twitter page. All of our Bengals Breakdown content will be posted on my Twitter page. So give me a follow over on Twitter right now.